Thing folks don't understand about sacrifice is sometimes it's more of a trade. Now, this is something that a maverick understands, and that's what separates them from the other personality types that other channels target their content towards. At Scribblebytes, we have three main personality types that we target with our narratives. And if you've watched the previous two videos, you would know about the type 3 personality and the type 2 personality. And this video is about the type 1 personality, which is the magician or the alchemist. Now, there's a difference between a magician or alchemist and a trickster. You see, because a trickster can appear like a magician, but what they're doing doesn't really have long-term results. But an alchemist or magician is not focusing on the external changes that they make, they focus on the internal changes. And that's where we get this distinction between a sacrifice and a trade. Because when you sacrifice something, you're just giving up something for nothing in return. But when you trade something, you're giving up something in return for something else. And this is something that the maverick alchemist comes to find when they are on their journey. They realize that it's not about the amount of time you put into your job, the amount of disappointments or failures you've had in your romantic relationships. It's about what you've traded during those experiences. If you have pursued relationships and they haven't worked, you could become cold and closed off, or you could just resort to self debasement and selling nude pictures of yourself. Or you could say, well, what has this taught me about myself? That's the process of alchemy, where you transform whatever's in front of you into what you want it to be. Similarly, with the rebel archetype, the type 2 personality, you could go on your life being angry and confused and not knowing why you're broken, why all the systems have failed you all around you. And with that, you could either become an extremist and rage against the machine and burn down government property and fight for your right to be heard by voting. Or you could just conform and join in on the corruption and be corrupt yourself. Or you could do what a maverick does and look for that third path, the higher path, which is what a magician does, self transformation. Asking yourself the question, what have I learned through all of this? And one of the main tenets of the narratives presented in the Scribblebytes universe of content and entertainment is that you have the ability to choose regardless of whichever situation you're in. You always have a choice. And guess what? Not making a choice is also a choice. And there are times when you will make choices, and there are times when you will choose to not make a choice. And remembering and knowing that gives you the ability to make a trade instead of a sacrifice. You see, because all the other paths require you to sacrifice a part of yourself in order to get some form of security from external things or people. Now, the thing with an alchemist or a magician is that you are not performing some kind of a trick. You are not temporarily playing a role so that you can get something later on. And you see this a lot on YouTube where people have a preconceived idea of how they want to be received. And so they look at other creators who do similar things or certain things, and then they latch onto that. And of course, it might work in the short term. Maybe it might not work at all. So then they try something else until they find something that works. But in the process, they've sacrificed a part of themselves. And so they reach that success and they look back at themselves and they think, who am I? And that wreaks havoc on their self esteem because then they are not able to fully or even come close to self actualizing and understanding what makes them tick, what makes them happy. Are they doing things for people or to maintain a certain lifestyle, or are they doing things which are fully in alignment with them? And so, one thing that you realize as a maverick on your journey to becoming an alchemist and a fully realized maverick is that you trust in your ideas, because all good things come together for you when you do. Now, this is where the high risk factor comes in for mavericks. By trusting in your ideas and believing that all good things will come together for you when you do, you are taking a risk, because all around you, you see people struggling and failing and trying. And the only people you might see getting ahead are people who have done it using corruption or debasement. And so it's very easy to be tempted to sacrifice yourself in order to reach that success. And so when I was doing my research, of course, one of the things that came up in my research is this whole concept of the Illuminati, and that people are willing, look at any video in the comment section about the Illuminati, and you will find some people who are willing to take part in this fictitious marketing scheme society thing designed to sell albums. And so that shows that it is a choice. So don't feel sorry for these people who sacrifice themselves and now they're crying because, oh, woe is me, they did this to me. You sacrificed yourself. That's what happens in a sacrifice. But you, being a maverick, you know that you have a choice, and with that choice, you can make a trade. That's the process of alchemy. When you go on that alchemical journey of transformation, it's very clear on the box. You're not going so that you can just reach this spiritual enlightenment and then you're gonna be sitting on a lotus leaf going Om Shanti for the rest of your life. You're trying to turn base metals into gold. It's literally on the box, because we all know what gold means, right? What gold stands for. There's this brilliant movie with Zac Efron called Gold. I recommend you check it out. And it's a perfect depiction of a type 2 personality who realizes that, okay, fine, working hard is not going to get me what I want. So let me look for the gold. But again, even in that journey, there is a trap. And this is where the maverick is wide awake and cognizant that they need to be careful. So, what is the trap of deciding to follow your dreams and your ideas? Well, the trap is that you believe you need money in order to do it. And this is where the tenets of alchemy come in, because with alchemy, it's telling you how to go from nothing, from base metals to gold. And in that process of that journey, you realize that the gold is always inside of you, and the gold is expressed through your choices. Now, the trap is when you actually believe that the gold is the only thing that will get you what you want in the end, that will fulfill your ideas or your dreams. But that's just not the case. There's this weird, magical, unknown thing that happens when you trust in your ideas. It's almost like you're in a lifeboat. And as you captain the lifeboat, you start seeing people in the water that somehow align with the idea that you're driving in your lifeboat. And you jump on board, you come in together, and then there's a whole bunch of you in this lifeboat working towards a common goal. Now, some people are afraid. They're afraid that they need money because they think that money is the only motivator in life. They think, look, if I just have this money, I can pay someone to do this, then I know for a fact that they're going to do it. And now that's where you see some type 3 personality traits creeping in, because the type 3 personality focuses on relationships secure for security, because marriage is a contract. You have to be with me forever. It's signed, and if you don't, you lose half your shit. And so, similarly, that same psychological trait comes through even in someone doing a business, where they might think, in order to start my business, I need to have an investor, or I need to have someone with money so that I can be able to have that security to captain this lifeboat. But a maverick realizes that ideas are much more powerful than money, because ideas create a sense of community, a sense of relatability. It's all about relationships. And I love the film industry because the film industry really focuses on working with people you have relationships with. And the beauty of that is because it allows the creative process to flow. Because why? Because you have trust with the people in your lifeboat. You're not going to bring someone into your lifeboat who's going to try and take it down. That's just not going to happen. But if you are in this husk of a reality where you think you need money, then you might end up taking money from people that would end up sinking your lifeboat, all because of the convenience. And so this is where mavericks sometimes decide, okay, I'm making the choice to take on my idea and pursue it, but now what? Like, what do you do? And this is where the high risk taking propensity comes in, because you now have to go within your resources and find the strength, the courage, and just the energy to go on. You have to come up with the plan on your own. I'm not going to tell you what the plan is. Your friends aren't going to tell you what the plan is. The famous YouTuber who's telling you you need 3 side jobs and a hustle, they're not going to tell you what it is. You have to figure it out. And when you come home and you sit down and you want to watch a show or something, you need to have something that inspires you to keep going on the path you've chosen, instead of something that scares you out of your path and tries to tell you that you have to sacrifice yourself to get ahead. Now, in mainstream media, there's always a certain narrative pushed that you have to play the game. If you don't play the game, then you break the rules of society, and then you will be in the middle of the ocean without a lifeboat to save you. And so it's understandable why people end up falling for tricknology, the art of trickery, faking it till they make it, that sort of thing. But in the process, you lose who you are. So, to my effort to explain how one could go about doing this, I wrote a book which is available on Amazon. It's called The Charlie, in inverted commas, The Charlie Manner, Manner. Check the description for the link to the book. And that book uses acting techniques to give you insight into how you can go through life not bothered by your external circumstances while keeping your eye on the prize. Because it's very easy to think you have to fake it till you make it, and it's also easy to confuse faking it with acting, which is not at all true. It all goes back to what I said at the start. The thing folks don't understand about sacrifice is that sometimes it's more of a trade. And in acting, you're doing a trade. You are not sacrificing yourself like you might if you worked through trickery. Because acting is all about truth. When I'm in acting class and I'm not being truthful in a scene, my acting teacher says, stop, lies, dead, get out. I mean, there was even this one case where I was doing a scene and she literally came up onto the stage and shook me and said, "What are you doing? You know how to do this. What is this you're doing now?" And at the time, There were people who had come to observe the acting lesson. So, of course, in my mind, I stopped doing what I normally do, which is acting, and then I started using trickery, and it came off as fake. And so that's the thing that Mavericks know and are working towards, that gold. And if you look at the color schemes on the Scribble Bites channel, I symbolize this final stage of the Mavericks journey through gold, through the Oscar award, which is gold. And I'm not talking about the actual Oscar. I'm using a semiotic symbol or technique or image, a signifier. Okay, I don't want to get too academic because that's when people fall asleep, but I'm using a signifier, which is the Oscar Award, to represent the idea of self actualization. And it's not a me thing, it's a you thing. That's what you're going for. You're going for that success, that money. And there's a misconception that success and money is not spiritual. And by spiritual, I don't mean invisible things necessarily. I'm talking about psychological fulfillment or self actualization, where your spirit, your feelings match your thoughts. That is spirituality, matching your thoughts to your emotions and to your physiology. So that when you're doing something, you don't feel these stomach cramps like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be falsifying documents. I shouldn't be sleeping with my boss, but I'm gonna do it because I need money. That's not spirituality. Spirituality is when you are living and saying and doing and feeling the same thing. It's all in alignment. And that is self actualization. It's not based on what other people want you to say and do, it's based on what you want to say and do and believe. And you do not need money to get there. You just need to trust in your ideas. Because Stella Adler, one of the greatest acting teachers in the past millennium, talks about talent in this way. She says the talent is in the choice. So, choice is the main thing that magicians or alchemists are really going after, even though it looks like it's going after this money or success or gold. It's really about choices. So, being a good actor, for example, doesn't mean that you are inherently just born with it. It's all about the choices you make. The choices you make in which character to play, the choices you make as a character in a scene. These are all the things that reveal your talent. And you know how to do that when you are self actualized. And that's why I use the idea of acting as an allegory or as a signifier for self actualization, because you are an actor too. If you work in a corporate environment, you put on your work clothes. That's your costume. You have a certain list of things that you're supposed to say and do. That's your script. You might be having a really bad day, but your boss doesn't care. You need to stand there and smile at the customer. No matter what's going on, you have to perform your duty. That is acting. So it's nothing new. It's not this weird concept. It's something you can apply in your real life today by just being aware. And the best way to do that is to live inside your body. Your body tells you everything that it's your mind is thinking. Your body is essentially your soul. It's an outlet for your spirit on this physical realm, because you always hear these stories of people who are in these precarious situations, and as they tell their story, they say, oh, I had a bad feeling. Oh, I had a stomach ache when this person came to me. And then sometimes they ignore that, and then they follow through and they end up in a ditch somewhere, and then they're on the ID channel telling their story. Now, your body is constantly communicating to you because 97% of communication is nonverbal. So, really, your body language, as Kylie Minogue says, is the most connected piece that you have of who you are. And that's why in first year acting, the only thing you do is body work. You learn how to breathe and you learn how to move your body. That's all you do because this is your instrument. And as you go out into the world, how is your instrument working for you? Now, we made the distinction between a magician and a trickster. Well, a trickster would dress up like a businessman, for example, and go and try and sell you bridges and the Eiffel Tower and try and con you out of money. That's a trickster. But a magician might say, okay, I'm going to dress like a businessman so that I can carry myself like a businessman, so that when I walk into a meeting to present my business ideas, I will be playing that part truthfully. It's not a scam, it's not a con, it's just what I feel I need to look like to do this role. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to dress up like a businessman to give a good presentation, but if that's what your body is telling you it needs in order to convince itself of the truth of your idea, then do that. For some people, you could just go in sweatpants and a t-shirt and just be like, this is my business. This is what I do. I mean, I doubt Seth Rogen dresses formal when he goes to his business meetings. He probably just shows up like, yeah, guys, whatever. And that's why in the character design of the magician or alchemist archetype, I've chosen nerdcore as my character design. So if you watch the Late Flight show, the one with the gold all over the thumbnails, that represents the magician or alchemist personality. And in that, I'm dressed in nerdcore subculture clothing because mavericks don't need to wear business suits to feel a certain way because they already feel it inside. And that brings us back to the conversation on the alchemical process, taking base metals and turning it to gold. Now, this is not a literal interpretation. People weren't actually trying to turn base metals into gold. Some of them were, but those people ended up being tricksters. The whole alchemical process is a code about finding self actualization and, excuse me, taking the journey to becoming a fully realized maverick personality, which you are. And so the base metals, it's not lead, it's yourself. You are the base metal. You come into this world, you go through different things, and then you become whatever you are, right? You're the base thing. And in the personality studies or breakdowns I've been doing in the past two videos, you can look at the type 3 personality who comes in, they do the whole online dating thing, they think that they're gonna, be pushing their carts in the grocery store, and then they're gonna reach for a carton of milk, and at the same time, John Cena's gonna reach for the carton of milk, or Chloe Grace Moretz, or whoever, and you're gonna both touch the same carton. You're gonna look at each other in the eyes. You're gonna have a beautiful meet cute, and you're gonna fall in love, and everything is gonna be fine. The maverick person is over that because they know that that's not gonna happen. That's not something to put all your eggs in. That's not something to rely on. Those are just ideas out in the world, and just it's a fantasy. And when a fantasy becomes reality, it turns into a nightmare. So you're over that. But then you went to a type 2 personality where you got angry and you were like, why is everything a lie? We've been lied to. What's going on? And again, instead of fighting the system or joining it, the maverick person says, fine, I'm just going to stick to what I want. I'm not going to solve all the world's problems. I'm not going to stop this and that. I'm just going to look at what I want. Because if I follow what I want, I will get something back for it because I'm doing a trade. And then when I have the money and the success, I can go and help whoever with whatever. But right now, let me focus on me. This is the maverick talking. And at this stage in the type 2 personality, they might end up doing something different, like becoming a real estate agent or just working on a completely new business, learning how to code. But again, that's a bit of a trap because if it's not true to who you are, then you're just doing a trick. So then they might do that and then be like, why am I a real estate agent? Why am I a realtor when I studied to become a musician? So I want to be a musician. And then you see them quitting, which is the phenomenon happening now, which I predicted millions of years ago in the study in the description box. So then you come to this stage of transformation, alchemical transformation, where you say, okay, I want the gold. I'm close to the gold. I believe I've got the gold. I'm worth it. My ideas are worth it. And you believe it. Now what? Where's my money? Where's my yacht? Where's my airplane? I want to be in my airplane with my name on it, using my cell phone that I created, driving a car that I invented. Where's all my stuff? Give me the money. And so this is the stage where you do that transformation process of turning yourself into the gold. But the only way to turn yourself into the gold is to find it in your heart. And all the great leaders and spiritual people have told you, even in Egyptian mythology, it's about the heart. And what do we mean the heart? The actual heart? No, we mean the center between your thoughts and your gut. Your thoughts think, your gut feels, your heart reacts. And your heart controls your stress level. It's connected to your parasympathetic system, which releases adrenaline, which either puts you in fight or flight or freeze mode, or keeps you calm and clear-headed so you can think. And with acting techniques, as you'll see in my book called The Charlie Manor, we focus a lot on breathing techniques and feeling your body. There's an entire chapter on it, and then I mention it a lot throughout the book. Because when your heart is in balance, you have found alchemical gold. Then you don't need anything to do anything because those things will draw themselves to your lifeboat. You'll realize that there are a group of people that think the same as you, that feel the same as you. And when you are calm enough and stable enough to realize that the external world is not the one that's going to be providing you any of the stability you're looking for, then you actually have the clarity, the third eye, to see the people and things and places that are in alignment with what you are wanting to make or do or be. And this is why you might see a lot of upside down triangles in Scribblebytes content, because it's the triangle of the hierarchy of needs by the humanist psychologist Abraham Maslow turned upside down, where instead of looking for security as your first goal, it's upside down, where now self-actualization, which was at the top, is now at the bottom. And what Scribblebytes is saying is just start at self-actualization. If you start at self-actualization, it will lead to all the other things on the pyramid. It will lead to your security. It will lead to you having a high self-esteem and having dignity with the things you say and do, with not having to sacrifice yourself for an algorithm. Because the main goal of being a maverick is authenticity. You want to be real. You don't want fake diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, just think how insulting it is for someone to get a job because of the color of their skin. Isn't it better to get a job because you deserve the job? Because in South Africa, we have a thing called Black Economic Empowerment, which doesn't change anything because the white South Africans, some of them have figured out, and I know from experience because I went on the field with someone who certifies these companies, and I've heard and seen the horror stories where they go in and to a white owned company and they find out that the one of the board members that's black that's listed in the company is some random gardener who they put on the books and who shows up on the day of inspection just to pretend that they work there. So when you force people to do things, sometimes it doesn't really work. Isn't it better if we all trust in our ideas and then come together from all our different walks of life and background in order to make something that not only fulfills us personally in our hearts, but that naturally uplifts the community? Doesn't that sound better? But I understand that there are a lot of people who don't believe that's possible, and so they resort to forcing people to do it. But what I'm saying is, if we don't focus on the people who don't believe it's possible and only focus on the people who do believe it's possible, then it will be, because then it's possible. And just like when you complain to the government and they don't listen to you, when you complain to these people, your boss, you ask for a raise, you don't get it, just the way society has ignored you, as a maverick, it's your time to ignore them and focus on your methods and not to allow yourself to be poisoned by the structures that just seem to have right now the most money and the most capability to bombard you with media marketing messages that tell you that there's something wrong with you and that you need to buy something to feel better. At Scribble Bites, what I'm saying is there's nothing wrong with you. So here's something you can watch to feel good about the choices you've made in your life and to also understand that you don't have to do sacrifices in order to be who you are. You don't have to sell your soul to the devil. You can just do a little pirouette on the dance floor with the devil and then go home as yourself. You don't need to take the devil from the bar and put them into your bed. You have the choice. There's a great example of something that happened when I was on the field. So one of the people I was studying presented in this group of magicians. So the magicians at the place I was doing the study, they saw that the company was allegedly corrupt and that, you couldn't go to the toilet when you wanted to, stuff like that. It was really ridiculous. But they didn't join the rebels that I talked about in the previous episode. Remember, I said the rebels, they went to the government, they went to the lawyers, they tried to take it all the way to the Supreme Court, and it failed. These people, the magicians, they didn't. They said, how does this situation benefit me? I'm here to make money so that I can do my own business on the side. So the magicians made their environment, the chaos, work for them. And there's this great thing that happened. It was my favorite, probably one of my favorite situations that I was able to observe. So one of the magicians I was studying got another job, just a modeling job on the side, and it was paying triple what she earned in a week. So she was like, I'm definitely taking this modeling job, but how can I do it? Because I have to be at the office to do the work. So I was like, well, be an actor. So she went and thought of something, and then she came back and she was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. She's like, I'm gonna put tomato sauce on the chair. Then she told the people, some of the people around her, to act all shocked. Then she went to the cleaning lady and told her she's putting tomato sauce on the chair. She must take the chair out in front of the managers who were on the floor. So, and say that she was menstruating and she needs to go home. That was the scene. So she puts the tomato sauce in the chair. She tells the cleaning lady to run through by the manager screaming, going, "Oh my God, oh my God." So then action, right? It's time for the scene. So the cleaning lady runs out going, oh my God, what are these disgusting people? And then she, the person I'm studying, goes to the manager and says, oh my gosh, I need to go. It's that time of the month. Gone. She went and did the modeling gig, got the money, came back the next day, continued with work. That's what a maverick does. She believed in the truth of her idea. And she has a fashion brand on the side. So this is all part of her lifeboat. And like I said, when you trust in your ideas, all good things come together for you because you're on your own lifeboat and there's nothing that can stop you. There's just you realizing that you have the choice. And so this is what makes a true maverick. When you go through all these journeys and realize that it's all up to you. Now, if you want to meet Timothy Chalamet at the grocery store reaching for the same carton of milk, you know, there's this weird thing that happens in life where you just say things and then they happen. I mean, who knows? That could happen, but only if that's what's in your heart to believe. If you don't go into it thinking, oh, this is ridiculous. I mean, being an actor, I can tell you whenever I've done a role, and especially in the preparation of a role, the things that the character goes through happens to me in real life. And that's why this whole study that I did happened. And I used the tenets of a maverick to get through it because I was so shocked when it was happening. Like I said, when I went into this research, I thought I was literally going to be bored. Not bored, but just it wasn't going to be that eventful because I had prepared my material to research the things that ended up happening, which blew my mind. I was like, why don't I have a camera crew here right now? This is the movie happening. But it was me realizing that by doing this role where I'm looking at why is my audience, millennials and Gen Z, why are they so angry? Then through this weird way, I ended up in a situation where I got to see exactly why they were angry. I saw some crimes allegedly that I was just thinking of in my research, background research. And now I'm in it and I'm seeing it. And in the beginning, it freaked me out because I was like, why is this happening? This is too much. I just thought I'm going to sit at break time and talk to these people and say, oh, what do you like? What movie do you like? What? No, I was witnessing corruption live in front of my eyes. Alleged corruption. Alleged. For they try and sue me again. So that's what I mean by this weird thing, this thing that just all these good things that come to you in your life, but and that is why I now can relate to the mavericks, to you, the audience, because I know what you go through and I know the way out. Because I had to go through that way out. I mean, to be serious for a second, the one thing with participant observation when you're doing cultural intelligence, like the one fear every ethnographer has is going native. And when you go native, that means you actually start to become the people that you're researching and you lose all objectivity. And there was a moment where I was so close to going native. It was scary. But luckily, I checked in with my doctor because you have to have a doctor when you're doing ethnographic research. You have to either have your academic consultant or your professor, or in my case, because I'm not in school, a doctor. And my doctor was like, look, I'm writing you a note. You're not going back there for a month. You're a filmmaker. You are not these people. You're not in that environment. So just relax. And then when I came back, I was able to actually think and realize that, oh, this is the thing I've been researching. This is the magic. This is the alchemy. This is the transformation. That all of this craziness that I now understand and I did not understand going into it, I now understand why people get stuck at personality type 2, where people just go mad and want to burn shit down. I get it now. It makes sense. It's not great, but it makes sense. So now, how did I get through it? By looking at the magicians, the alchemists, and how they were able to be like, hey, all of this chaos going on, I'm going to use it to my advantage. And it was working for them. And so I was like, oh, great. Instead of relying on the research I was expecting to gather, which was just, I had like a 125-page questionnaire that nobody wanted to answer. So then that's when I started going, oh, well, this is cool. I can just use all of this in my research because this is literally what's in my pre-research materials. And then that's when Scribble Bites came to be, because I was like, oh, this is the solution. You don't try and sue the company or expose them for being alleged criminals. You just transform that situation into a movie studio. And it reminded me of that movie, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, when Matthew McConaughey is trying to figure out how to sell these diamonds and he can't get it. And then Kate Hudson comes with her dog, Princess Sophia, and she's like, yeah, it's just a bit of frosting because the dog has um, a diamond collar or whatever. And then Matthew McConaughey takes that situation from his romantic life, he finds inspiration from it, and he comes up with the ad campaign for the diamonds, which is Frost Yourself. And it's perfect for what I'm talking about in this entire series and on Scribble Bites, because in the description, if you go look at the about section, it says frost yourself. And in the ad in the movie, the lady's like, you don't need men, you don't need anything, you don't need external things, just frost yourself. I suck at accents, as everybody knows. But it's true. That's what magicians have learned how to do. They've learned to frost themselves. And that's what I am so glad that if you're a maverick and you're watching this, this is frosting. You're frosting yourself right now. You're enjoying who you are. You don't need men. You don't need women. You don't need all these outside things that rust and turn to dust. So just frost yourself.